Welcome to the Pindown, your Detroit Pistons podcast. I'm your host, Wes Davenport from Motor City Hoops and Detroit Bad Boys.
And I'm Blake Silverman, writer for Detroit Bad Boys, covering everything from the Pistons to the NBA Draft and the Motor City Cruise.
And we could not be more excited. We are joined by our guy, friend of the show, Jack Kelly. Jack, how have you been, man?
I'm good, guys. Thanks for having me on. Seems to be some crazy things going on in the world of Pistons news, so I'm very excited, as always, to jump on with you two. And yeah, let's chat Pistons.
And just really quickly, I mean, if you're watching the stream, obviously this isn't great for the podcast listeners, but I'm going to call it out anyway. Jack, you're not in the bench room. You're not in that the room you're usually in. Tell the people where you're at.
No, I'm just down at the beach at my girlfriend's parents' house, which we're lucky to snag for this week. So I've just been working from down here, and yeah, I hope everything sounds okay. But it's nice to be out of the city, that's for sure.
Yeah, you're coming through clear, so all good. And I'm a little jealous of your beach vacation, but that's neither here nor there. We do have news. We got news. Let's open up the show with something that dropped earlier this afternoon on Friday the 14th. Fred Vinson coming from the Pelicans. He's going to follow Tidjane Salaun and join Monty Williams' coaching staff. He's a shooting coach, shooting guru, been with the Pelicans for a long time now. Widely credited, I believe, at least in some part, with Brandon Ingram, Herb Jones, and many others that have made shooting improvements with the Pelicans. He's really well respected throughout the league, and it's honestly pretty a good sign, I would think, that he's coming to Detroit. So, Jack, Blake, both of you guys, curious just what your thoughts are on Fred Vinson as a coach, what he might bring, and then as well, the big question: what does this mean for Monty Williams?
Well, I'll open up just on Fred Vinson. I think I've only been awake for less than an hour, and that was the first thing I saw when I woke up, and I was pretty excited about that hiring. I mean, for this offseason, I've told myself not to get too excited about coach hirings and front office hirings until we actually see this team hit the court. But when you quickly look at Fred Vinson's history with helping develop players with their shot, their outside shot, the first name that came to my mind was Lonzo Ball. When he got to the Pelicans, he was like a 32% three-point shooter. By the time he left the Pelicans, he was at 38% on pretty good volume. And then Herb Jones is the other one. I think his rookie season, he was around 32%. And last season, he shot 42% from three. So I'm sure there's other names you can find. I'm going to have a look after this show, see what I can dig up. But yeah, he's well known for his shooting. And I mean, I think the player we all think of when we think of shooting is Asar Thompson. So to get Fred Vinson in from the Pelicans, I think is going to, you can't help but not think about the improvement he potentially could have on Asar's shooting. But I'll turn it over to Blake.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I think it was Pistons Talk who tweeted out a video of Fred Vinson working with Dyson Daniels and Herb Jones and Najee Marshall, and just like, it was a quick clip, but really getting into the technical stuff, working on their form. So I love the hire. Obviously, shooting is a big hole, a big need that this team needs to address. Obviously, the big question is what happens with Monty Williams? What happens with the rest of the staff? We have this question here from Robbie Silva on Twitter, which is my dad. Shout out to you, Dad. Appreciate you supporting the show. But what's the future for Monty Williams? Do we expect any other changes to the coaching staff? Sean Corp wrote an article on DBB after Woj broke the news that Vinson was joining the staff on the question with Monty Williams. Like, does this mean for sure that Monty is coming back? And Sean mentioned in his piece that this is sort of an outside staff member that's a specialist that's focusing on something. It's not an associate head coach. It's not a front of the bench role. So I think we need to, I guess, just chill on what's happening with Monty until we hear specifically from the team. Hopefully we get this news at some point soon, whether he stays or goes. But I don't think the hiring of Vinson is like done deal. Monty is coming back. I was probably 50-50 on Monty coming back before. I think maybe this bumps it up to like 60-40 leaning towards him staying, but I think we still have news to come.
You want to take it, Jack, or you want me to jump in? I have a thought, but
Yeah,
I don't
you
want to
go.
step on the guest toes,
Nah, you go.
All right, sweet. Uh, so like, I did read Sean's piece. It was a great piece. If you guys haven't read it, please do. It was great work by him. Now, the only, I don't know, like factor, I guess, that I think maybe we should throw in here is thinking about it in the reverse, right? If you've got a coaching staff, and by the way, I am extremely happy that the Pistons are adding Fred Vinson as a shooting coach because that's not really a position that's formally been on the staff, and it's something that I think most teams have, and it is a really real need for this team, especially with the young players that they have. So I think that's awesome. But back to Monty Williams. Let's think about this in reverse, right? If Fred Vinson was on the staff and Monty Williams were to get fired, Fred Vinson could potentially be out of a job. He is connected to the coaching staff. Like, this is not purely an independent decision. He will still be on the bench. He is underneath the head coach. If the head coach loses his job, so may Fred Vinson. He will have to interview with whoever they hire next, or just follow the coach whenever they land their next gig somewhere else, right? So I do think that this indicates something with Monty Williams potentially staying. I don't know if it's like a sure thing. I would maybe suggest that this might mean conversations are progressing positively with Monty Williams and Trajan Langdon. We did get a report, I believe it was out of James Edwards, that essentially Monty has to re-interview for the job. That was a couple weeks ago now. So perhaps those conversations are going well enough where a coach, a shooting coach here, well respected for the Pelicans, was comfortable jumping ship and coming over to Detroit. Like, I don't think it's a certainty that Monty Williams is staying, but I do think it could indicate that at least it's more likely now. Like you said, bump up that percentage. What do you think, Jack?
Yeah, on Monty, I think the longer this goes on, even like it feels like he's going to stay. But I if I put a percentage on it, like it's still for me maybe similar to what Blake said, like 60-40. It just, to me, it would seem somewhat strange, even considering what Blake said and what Sean have said, which makes a whole heap of sense. It would seem strange to start filling out some form of coaching or adding to the coaching staff if you're still like looking to move on from your head coach. Or so I think I kind of align with you, Wes. Maybe the conversations are trending positively, because I kind of spoke about this last night and I was just saying, like, it's like, what could they, if they were going to get rid of Monty, like, he's not taking a buyout, so they can't hit. That's been reported. He's not taking a buyout, so that couldn't be what's holding up the news or anything. Like, I know there's other factors, but basically for me, the longer this goes on, the more likely he's coached, because I think we're exactly 2 weeks from the draft. Not that your coach has to absolutely be set by the draft, like the GM position in front office is kind of more important, but still, it would just, yeah, for me, the longer this goes on, the more likely I feel like Monty's back for next season.
Well, and I think you bring up a good point too on the timing of it, because if you were planning on removing the head coach, why would this leak now? You already kind of have the handshake agreement with Fred Vinson. He's probably going to follow you. There was no need to announce it now, or at least allow it to be announced now, unless you are at least leaning towards keeping the current coach that you have. Because again, like if you wanted to add this guy regardless of who the head coach is, that's fine. But if you knew that you were leaning towards firing the current head coach, PR wise, it would make a lot more sense to do that first and then bring this guy on and then go hire more coaches, instead of what's happening now.
Yeah, I mean, my only thing I'd say to that is we obviously don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Like, maybe it was Fred Vinson's agent who was talking to Woj, and like, we don't know how it comes out, but it's definitely interesting. And Derek Brooks brings up in the chat, like, what if the Pistons are dragging their toes on the coaching decision? because they can't interview a certain Celtics assistant yet. Like, we're recording this on Friday. We're waiting for game 4 of the finals. The Celtics are on the verge of an NBA championship. Sam Cassell's a good name to me in the cycle. And also, once the season's officially over, maybe some other dominoes will fall. Not like they'll necessarily impact the Pistons, but I think it's an interesting thing too. I don't know. I really wish we just got a report that was like definitively one way or the other, which I think that we're all waiting for. So hopefully it comes. Like, hopefully we are not just like getting through the draft, summer league, free agency, and it's just like, I think Monty Williams is the coach of the Pistons.
Yeah, no, I agree. Jack, do you have any final thoughts before we move on to some questions?
I just hope it's finalized somewhat soon.
Yeah,
because my whole thing with Monty and like, I actually think there's a world where it can work still with him as the head coach. Like, last season was bad, like nowhere in it. But the thing that I just keep coming back to is like, I just don't want to get 25 games into next season. This team's not, they're slightly underperforming, and it's just the Pistons need to let go of Monty Williams. Like, he's going to be the first to go next season because Troy Weaver's gone. You can't make roster change. Like, maybe I'm thinking too negatively, but I just don't want this whole, if you bring back Monty, then you're going to fire him mid-season, then you've just wasted this whole off-season with him. Do you know what I mean? It just feels like way more lost time with Cade Cunningham and this young core, or what remains, or this new roster. Just that's my biggest fear with the coaching thing, and where I keep getting stuck, and why I just want a decision made somewhat soon.
Yeah, I agree. And you just brought up something for me. I was talking with Bryce Simon about this the other day. And part of what makes this decision on Monty Williams for Trajan Langdon so weird to me is how non-traditional that hiring was, right? Because usually you fire the GM, whatever, you bring in a new guy. That guy will want to clear house, right? So all the people that were associated with the previous front office leader, they're out, they're gone. We want a fresh start. But Monty Williams isn't really associated with Troy Weaver. Monty Williams was effectively a Tom Gores hire. And is he a clear out, right? Is he part of the old regime? He is part of the old regime, but he wasn't like accountable to the old regime. It's just such a weird scenario. And I don't know what to think of it. I have no idea what's going to happen. It's just unusual.
And last thing, like you said, Wes, it kind of just feels like what's been the main issue here is like just the power dynamics within the leadership.
Yeah.
I know the too many cooks in the kitchen, that thing gets thrown around a lot, but just what you outlined then with the hiring process of Monty. And like, it's weird as well, because as a fan, like, I was so excited for Monty Williams last off season. So it's hard to turn around and say like, Tom Gores sucks, doesn't pay up, but it is like, it's the process of it all that's very questionable. So anyway, that's enough of Monty.
Last quick thing, if I could, like, we still haven't heard Tidjane talk. Like, I wonder if he has a frame of mind that's like, okay, if Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren are part of my future, like, if we let go of Monty Williams, they'll have their third head coach in their first 3 years in the league. Like, Cade Cunningham, a similar boat, but he had 2 years at Casey. So I don't know. Like, consistency is important at any level. So I wonder if that's something he prioritizes, even though like the devil's advocate of that is like, well, if Monty isn't the guy to lead it into the future, then just cut your ties now and find someone who can.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? Let's just start off the questions with this fun one here from YouTube user. This is in the live chat. He says, let's say that they start Sasser at the 2 over Jaden Ivey game 1 next season with Monty still as the head coach. What do you do? So my question, spinning this, would either of you be upset with that?
Let's see what like Killian Hayes is up to as well, but no, I mean, I don't know. I think we need to see what the roster looks like in free agency. Like, I don't think there's any, like, I don't see Sasser as a starter probably in the NBA really at any point. I love him as a player. I just don't see him as that guy. So I don't know. Like, I know we have some Malik Monk questions, so I won't go into that. But if you have a player in that role that's on your team that's like starting over Ivy, I wouldn't be upset with that, I guess. Like, I still think Ivy should be a big part, but like, I don't think starting is huge for him, I guess.
Yeah, honestly, like, Sasser isn't Killian Hayes. I wouldn't be stoked about it. It would be, but I could see, like, that makes some sense from just, if you just take away like who was drafted where and all that. Like, if you just look at their pure basketball skill set, like, Sasser can shoot the ball. He had some. I think a lot of the fan base is down on him, and I get it, but he had some really good moments last year. I know he's an older rookie, so it's expected, but I can see the vision a little bit there with starting him. Although I would be more so concerned just for the overall team's outlook if Marcus Sasser's your starting two. That would be more my concern rather than how it impacts Jaden Ivey in the short term, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. Because your last concern there with like the roster construction was exactly where I was going to take this. Because like, look, Marcus Sasser, he shoots and he's a fairly good defender on point guards. That fits very nicely next to Cade. But I am fairly low on Marcus Sasser. I think he's a bench guy for the future. So if the roster is in a position where the head coach, in this case Monty Williams, thinks that he needs Marcus Sasser to be starting next to Cade Cunningham, I think something's gone wrong with the front office, not necessarily with the coach. And gosh, YouTube user, look, this is a mailbag show. He says, I didn't expect you guys to take this question seriously. He was just poking fun at Monty Williams and hating on Ivy. But look, we take them all seriously here.
And not only that, but I think we're also recovering from a 14-win season where we witnessed things that no basketball fan should witness. Like, we saw decisions that should come across as jokes be implemented with our basketball team. So, we're a bit scarred in that sense.
You mean starting Killian Hayes, Asar Thompson, and Jalen Duren might not have been the best strategic move?
Honestly, just the Killian one alone, I never thought I would see that. And then everything else, you're absolutely right.
Well, let's stick on the guard position here. Blake, you were talking about Malik Monk, so let's just dive right into that. We got this question here from Bobby Buckets in the DBB comments. Says Jaden Ivey and Malik Monk put up very similar numbers last season, which they did. I can read those off in a second. But he says, assuming we don't trade Jaden Ivey, why would we sign Malik Monk this summer for 3 times the cost if they're pretty similar statistically? And he is correct. Their per game numbers this past season, Jaden Ivey, 15.4 points per game, 3.4 rebounds, and 3.8 assists on 33.6 and 75 shooting slashes. Malik Monk was also 15.4 points, 2.9 rebounds, and 5.1 assists on just slightly better shooting. It was 44, 35, 83. So, Jack, what do you think? What do you think about Malik Monk in Detroit and the similarities he may or may not have if you disagree with Jaden Ivey?
Consistency and play style. So the numbers look similar, but I think Malik Monk, did he average 5 assists last season, which is a career high, I believe. So, but aside, like, just in terms of scoring, like, Malik Monk is a guy who, since he's gone to the Kings, defenses, I feel like, account for him and scheme for him. And it's not that they don't for Jaden Ivey, but I feel like Malik Monk on a consistent basis has proven that he's a guy that can get you 15, 30 points on any night. And and I feel like there's a consistency there. He's been in the league since, I think, like 2017. He's like 26 years old. He's in his prime. There's a consistency there with him. And he's just more of a threat from 3. Like, no one is leaving Malik Monk unaccounted for in the corner. When Cade's running pick and roll and if Malik's in the corner, like, they're not helping. So, like, or if Malik Monk's on ball, like, if you actually really dive into Malik's numbers on ball as a shot creator, they're like not as high as you would think, but he's still a really good threat and a guy that can create his own shot. And then you look at the passing numbers, like, the assist numbers are actually better than Ivy. But, and this isn't me saying Ivy's got no future. It's just this has been the whole issue with the Pistons is that, yes, their young guys put up numbers, but it's because they're playing a heap of minutes and they are like, they're not actually really impacting like the games. Like Malik Monk's been a part of a Sacramento Kings team, which was very successful last season. And then, they still made the play-in in a tough West this season. So there's just more of a consistency there. Like the Pistons, that's what they need. They need guys who every single night, even if they're not shooting the ball at 50%, like teams are still going to account for them every single night. And it's going to open things up for Cade and even Jaden Ivey if he plays alongside Malik Monk.
Yeah, and just on top of that, like also Malik Monk, his shooting splits are at a little bit of a higher volume. So I'm not going to say like, oh, Malik Monk shot like a less than a percentage point better than Ivy, but he was taking more shot attempts and putting up the same numbers essentially. And he was doing that in a full bench role where teams weren't like putting their worst defender on him. Like he did things in a special role for the Kings. Like the interesting thing with Monk to me is he hasn't really been a starter throughout his career other than when he was with the Lakers for that one season. And with Ivy, like I don't think if you sign Malik Monk that they would necessarily cannibalize one another. Like I'd be interested to see who starts, like, and if they are just exchanging one for the other, if you stagger them a little bit, what it looks like. But like I think Bobby Bucket's point is totally fair. Their numbers are similar. I would say if you look past historically at Monk's shooting, like he shot 42% from three 1 year, 39% the next year. That number is like not considerably, but decline like little by little year after year. So you could make that argument to me, and I'd say it's totally fair. And for the money that you're giving him, like you don't want to do that. Jack, like you mentioned, Monk has probably a little bit more playmaking upside than Ivy does right now, but I think it's totally a fair point to not want to give that money to Monk and focus on Jaden Ivey's development. But that said, I don't think that bringing in Monk is it for Ivy by any means.
All right, so I want to throw some of these numbers at you guys, just some more context on kind of comparing the two players. Obviously, Malik Monk, Blake, you mentioned it. This was a little bit of a down year for him, three-point shooting-wise. He does have 2 seasons where he was above 39%. This year, obviously, it was at 35, which is about 1.5% better than Jaden Ivey, but he did shoot 1 more attempt per game in about 2.5 less minutes. And that minutes thing, I think, is pretty important here. So per 100% possessions, Jaden Ivey was 25.7 points, 5.7 rebounds, and 6.4 assists. Again, that's per 100 possessions. Malik Monk, however, because he played almost 3 less minutes a night, was actually at just under 29 points per game, 5.5 rebounds, and 9.6 assists. So, like, they're very different players. They play a different style, Jack, like you mentioned. Malik Monk's a much more aggressive scorer, for example, both on and off the ball than Jaden Ivey is at this point in his career. But I do think Malik Monk is a better player currently. And what the chat right now is talking about is if Monk can really be a starter. Is this kind of a Ben Gordon type of concern where you're going to pay the guy a lot of money, try to scale him up as a starter, and he just can't do it. But honestly, and I'd like to get your thoughts on this, guys, but that doesn't bother me much because if Malik Monk comes in and becomes the sixth man at 25 million a year with the way the cap's going right now, I am just fine with that. And I think it was YouTube user who mentioned this, but you do need 2 NBA caliber players at every single position on the floor, if not 3. If you can make it happen. Like the great teams have 3. That's why the very end of the bench is for, your championship contenders tend to get poached. They're good players. And the Pistons just need to upgrade on talent. So, like, I'm totally all right with the idea of let's add Malik Monk if Langdon wants to. Try him out as a starter. If it doesn't work, then I know he's a sixth man of the year candidate off the bench. That sounds pretty great. But do you guys have that worry about him scaling up?
I don't, because even if, say, he does become the sixth man, like, he's going to be getting, if he stays with Sacramento, like, he was going to be getting, like, not much less than what the Pistons can offer. Well, I'm not exactly sure what the Kings can offer him, but I assume it's around like 20 million per season or something. Like, I just think you just, like, I would have no issues. Like, I think ideally he might come in. Like, I feel like if he's going to sign with Detroit, it's probably going to be because A, they can offer him the most money, but B, I feel like there will be some, not a promise, but there'll be discussion about him potentially starting at the two, and coming to a younger team and getting a chance to have a bigger role. But it wouldn't bother me too much if he comes off the bench, because we've seen him be successful there. It would be different if it was like, it'd be different, yeah, if he was coming across as a starter and that didn't work out, and then he's never come off the bench, and then there's ego issues and that kind of thing. Like, that would be my concern. But yeah, I'm with you, Wes. If he doesn't work out as a starter, he can just be the sixth man, and we've seen him with the Kings absolutely thrive in that role and be a match winner for them, like genuine game changer for them. So wouldn't bother me too much.
Yeah, and Jack, I think what you brought up earlier with Monk is important too. Like with Sacramento, he could be a guy on any night that pops for 30, and that's like how you win a game. The Pistons didn't. I mean, they probably didn't have anyone like that the last year in recent memory. So like, just if Cade has an off night scoring, shooting wise, I think those other players that can really just like go off. I mean, we saw it from Marcus Sasser a bit, like if Burks could catch the hot hand or whatever. But I think Monk is like, he almost, like when Dante DiVincenzo dropped 40 on the Pistons and like that role he played for the Knicks, I could see Monk as that for the Pistons. I mean, he was that type of scorer already in Sacramento, but I just think being one of those guys who you can go to try and get a bucket when maybe some other guys are starting off slow or just not feeling it that night, I think this team can totally benefit from, in addition to what's already here, depending on what the roster looks like.
And really quickly before I move on, QT brings this up, and it's a good thing to bring up just because it's something that gets talked about pretty frequently with Monk, but then with other bench players that you're looking to expand into a starter. So QT says, as a starter, Monk would face tougher defenders, typical lower efficiency when bench guys to move into a starting role. And generally, I think that's a fair critique to have, but I don't really think it's fair to Monk specifically. Like you mentioned, he was a starter and he performed well for the Lakers a couple of years ago. And the Kings have pretty consistently used him as a closer when obviously the other team's throwing their best guys at the players the Kings have. And the Kings were a good team both of those years. So that's not something that really concerns me. But for other guys, I think it's a good thing to bring up. Let's hit on a draft one really quick, Jack. This is from Dylan22. He wants you to pick which wing has more potential and projects as the better fit for the Detroit Pistons. Cody Williams or Ron Holland?
Spicy.
Man. I have Ron Holland fifth on my board, but it's because fifth on my board, that's Risha without Zachary Ricochet and Alex Sarr. Just want to clarify that. But this is very close. I feel like Ron Holland's maybe more of a safer bet, if you could say that. But Cody Williams, I know that it was on very low efficiency, but he has that low volume, I should say. He did shoot 41% from outside. He does kind of have all the tools. He's like 6'8", 7'1" wingspan. He's not Jaden McDaniels, but he kind of looks like him. Like he's a younger brother of Jalen Williams. Oh, man, this is so tough. Maybe I just Like, maybe I'm just going to say Ron Holland, whilst the shooting is a big concern for me. Um, yeah, I'm going to say Ron Holland because I have him higher on my board, but it's close. It's tough.
So for me, the only reason I'm gonna say Cody Williams is because of best fit for the Pistons. Jack, I agree with you. Like I have Ron higher on my board. I think this is like a really interesting question because these two guys, and maybe I'd loop in like Modest Buzelis and Wes, your guy, Tidjane Salaun as some of the biggest upside swings in this draft. But for the Pistons, I was thinking about this the other day. Like, I kind of hate Ron Holland's fit on the Pistons just because I feel like he needs to go into a certain situation where he has like a defined role. And I feel like the Pistons are just so like we have Cade and then we're not really sure like what else is going on. And whereas like Cody, like both of these guys are going to need some time. Like that's a thing. And maybe we don't even go for one of these guys because of that. But Cody, I just think, Jack, like you mentioned, he shot well, but on low volume. What's that going to look like? But he did shoot it well. If injuries didn't derail his season, like he might still be talked about as a top five, like one of the best prospects in this draft. But the way things ended for him was so poor, and just like where he is, he needs to add strength. So I don't know. The fit is just much more clear to me with Cody compared to Ron. But that said, like I think I like Ron better as a prospect. So, and I don't know. It's just all about the shot, and it's tough to tell with like what the Ignite we're doing this year and everything that Ron was asked to do. So I'm interested to see where he ends up and how he shoots it, like coming out of the gate.
So what if we take, the other young guys on the roster kind of off the table, right? What if we just look at a fit with Cade Cunningham? Because like you and I have talked about this on the show before, but like as we move forward into the future, Jaden Ivey, Asar Thompson, Jalen Duren, they have to prove that they're starters and long-term building blocks for this team. You can't just assume that they are. So if we don't assume that they are, and we look at all of them as kind of flexible pieces here that may or may not be part of it long term, between Cody Williams and Ron Holland, who fits better with Cade? If everything breaks right for the prospect.
Yeah, that's
quickly. I do think both of these guys are total home run swings to me. They both scare the crap out of me. Continue.
Yeah, I was just going to say that's the argument for Ron Holland. Like, if you aren't convinced that anyone on this roster is going to be a part of the long-term future other than Cade, then I would probably say Ron Holland. But if you had like the comment that was just up on the screen about Ron and Asar, like we already have to finagle lineups when Asar is on the floor. Like ideally there's a floor spacing big. So if you have like Ron Holland in here, you might, if he shoots it like he did last year, you might have to do the same for him, which I don't think is the greater thing to do. Whereas I feel if it was Cody Williams, he's more like he helps with the spacing issue. So yeah, it's a tough one. It's again, like where is Trajan's mind going to go? Like what's his draft philosophy look like?
Well, he's taken Herb Jones, Trey Murphy the third. They were with a lot later picks than pick 5, but
and Herb's like shooting improved over. He wasn't a great shooter.
Yeah. So like, but I think that lends itself maybe more towards Cody Williams, who's like that wing, who's that prototype of a 3-and-D. Like, so I don't know. This draft, I don't know. I haven't had much fun with it, I'll be honest. Like the conversation we've just had is like my internal thoughts every day when I'm trying to think about who should the Pistons take. It feels like if you choose one player, it's hard. That's all I'm saying.
All right. Well, before we get into more fun of draft questions and conversation, let's do this actual fun question, because I got to know what you guys think. Who's winning the horse game between the three of us? Jack, go first. If you want, stake your claim, but I think the answer should be clear.
I think you are, Wes.
I
Horse, I'll let
agree.
you. If we're playing one-on-one, I'm winning. I'm backing myself.
Oh, get out of here. Get out.
I
Blake, you just bowing out.
Yeah, I was gonna say the answer is probably not me. And hey, I'm comfortable in my shot, but no, Jack, I've seen you posted like a basketball video on Twitter a while ago.
Some
Like,
1-on-0 stuff.
hey, that's what horse is. So, Jack, Wes, I love you, but I might give this one to Jack just because of that video I saw. So maybe you can.
Unacceptable.
Maybe you can send me your film, Wes, and I can reassess next week.
Oh man, I will win, Jack. We will find time and we will play more. I will win. I'm competitive. Oh
Love
jeez.
it.
No,
No. How long does a horse game between Matas Buzelis, Ron Holland, and Asar Thompson take? Hours?
quick because
No, it's
we have
quick. They're NBA
we have
players.
Fred Vinson now too.
Yeah. Fred Vinson.
Well, they're also
instructing you.
NBA players in the gym, right? They'll be
Yeah.
fine.
Exactly.
But all right, good to know that Blake, you doubt my skills. I will remember this for a
Hey,
long
it's
time.
no doubt. It's no doubt. It's just Jack. I saw the shot. It looked nice.
Oh shoot, Blake, I forgot to give you the update. My everyone by best man speech, it did go well. Blake, you gave me no advice, but I still performed well for that. It was a great time.
Hey, you didn't need
Okay.
any advice.
Clearly not. But all right, let's get to this one. This one is about my guy Tidjane Salaun. This is from at DJancola3, Dave Jancola on Twitter. Says, how much of a concern is Salaun's 32-inch max vert, which he tested at the Euro Combine? I believe it was just last week. Does his film show any issues with vertical athleticism? Blake, I'll throw this one to you first.
Yeah, the max vert doesn't concern me. Like Zachary Riesache's was under what Salaun's is, so I get it. Like it's not a great number. It's towards the bottom positionally, but also like Reed Shepherd was all in the news for like tying their record, being at the top of it. And I know Bryce brought this up on the Pistons Pulse, and it's been reported that like Reed Shepherd literally said he did an arm trick that kind of got him a few more inches. So I don't know. Like, yes, these numbers are important and they're super interesting. You want to see what these guys measure as, like how it, like if it helps match like what you've seen on tape. But when I watch Salaun, he doesn't, like, he's not the best athlete I've ever watched, but I think he's a good athlete. And like Wes, I obviously want your thoughts because I know that you've watched a ton of them too.
Yeah, so actually, YouTube user just brought it up here in the comments. So YouTube user says this film shows a ton of issues with athleticism in traffic, and that is true. So Tidjane Salaun is a very good athlete. He's very explosive, and when you bring up the arm length thing, that it's also a good point to scale that up too, right? So your vertical jump, that's just measuring basically how far above your standing reach the guy can get. Well, when you're Reed Shepherd, you're 6'2" with short arms, it's really important how high your feet get off the ground. But when you're, 6'8" or 6'9" with, I believe it was like a 7'2" wingspan and a pretty tall standing reach, like it's not as important. So, when you see him out in the open court, the ball is well above the rim. He's fast, he's explosive, he's quick. So I don't have any concerns about his athleticism. I do think that there's just kind of a body development issue, which is what YouTube users kind of alluding to there. He's very raw. I think he's very raw with his body as well. He's young, one of the younger players in the draft, and he's got a lot of room to add on more strength, more muscle. So to me, my guess is that the traffic athleticism issues, that's a core strength thing. If you're driving down the lane And if you've played basketball before, you know how it feels if someone kind of checks you and you fall off your line. You're not going to jump as high as if someone bumps into you and they bounce off you, right? So if you're the one getting moved, and he's the guy that gets moved quite a bit. So I just think it's a strength issue, to be honest, with him. But Jack, what do you think on the athleticism for Salaun? And just say good things, because otherwise I won't invite you back.
I, no, I think you guys covered it really well. I think the vertical leap, the sprint times, that kind of thing at the combine, they're all very interesting, but they need to be like used in the right context, and like you need to take in all the other factors of like you said, Wes, like if you're 6'8", 7'4" wingspan or something, like you don't necessarily need to have a 41-inch vert. And I think you guys have outlined it perfectly. Like those measurements are important, but they're not the be all and end all. Like just because Salaun's vert's 32-inch doesn't mean he's going to be playing below the rim at the NBA. Like that's just ridiculous thing to say. So that's all my thoughts on it. I think they're interesting measurables. They create for some good conversation at the time. But yeah, there's plenty of other stuff to factor in.
Yeah, Edie and Klingon, their max vert is like less than this number. So I think that just like contextually what you were saying, Wes, like bigger players, and Salaun's a big guy. Like this number is sort of like inverse to your small guard. So yeah, it's important. And like if guys throw out an eye-popping number, you should definitely pay attention to it. But I don't think it should necessarily hurt their stock. But it's a good like question and discussion to have.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jack, just quickly, I'm curious, where are you at with Salaun? Where do you have him on the board? And just general thoughts with fit with Detroit.
My board only goes about 7 or 8 players deep, so he's not on there. To be honest, he's not a guy I'm really considering. Only because
you're not coming back, Jack.
Hey, I just have to be honest. Like I'm trying. This draft has tested me because Salaun is a guy. Cody Williams is a guy in the past, like those more high upside type wing players for sure in the past have been at the top of my draft boards. But this year I'm trying to find players that can come in. They don't have to be day one contributors, but I have a guy like Reed Shepherd at the top of my board. And there's some questions I want to ask you guys about him and his kind of fit with the rest of the roster. But players that can contribute day one is more which goes against how I've been in the past few drafts. I'm just looking for guys that can shoot, play a bit of defense, come in and help in the immediate future, which maybe that's the wrong philosophy, but I just feel like I've been burned going for projects in the past.
No, I like it and I respect it. But so so this isn't even just like Pistons specific. This is just my big board. I've got him 6. I'm very high on Tidjane Salaun. But let's get into this next one here. This is from Chris in our comment section. He asks, would you lose faith in Trajan Langdon if right off the bat, if Jalen Duren is still the starting center on opening night next season with Stewart as the backup 5? He's saying in this scenario, they didn't draft a center. So, Jack, what do you think? Would that make you lose faith or no?
It wouldn't make me lose faith. I'd be a little bit concerned going into the season, but I wouldn't be out on Langdon and, canning the season or thinking we're doomed. I would think, if anything, it shows faith in Duren improving, and maybe there's some stuff that's happened behind the scenes and Duren's shown growth on that end. But I would be more concerned if Stewart was the opening night starting 4 and Duren was the opening night starting 5, because I don't know what's going to happen with Isaiah Stewart this summer, but I would be happy if he's on the roster next season, but as long as it's in that backup big role, because I think he really, he only played like 46 games last season, but I think the minutes he played as a backup 5, he was tremendously good. Look, I wouldn't be overly like concerned and throwing the season out, but if anything, I would just be putting some faith that Duran has improved or shown some improvement in the off season. Um, yeah,
Yeah, I'm with you. I wouldn't lose faith, especially if Duran's the starting center and even with Stu as the backup five. I mean, I know a lot of us, myself included, have been wanting to see him in that role. I think what would make me question it a bit more is if you don't go out and get like a third big who is defensive minded. And it's tough because I want to say that players should have some role, but I also don't want an extended rotation. So, Jack, I'm with you. Like, if Duran and Stewart are your two fives that you're going with, I think that should say that Duran made some sort of improvement over the summer defensively. And also another element to this for me is like, what did they do with the rest of the roster? Like, did you just go all in on shooting and that's where you spent all your money, all your draft capital, whatever it might be, and you're going to give Duran some more time? And if it doesn't work out, like bring someone else in, or if you have to move on from Duran, whatever it might be. So, no, I just don't think it would, I guess, be fair if that's what it is. But I would be interested to see like roster construction wise what it looks like around it, because things have to happen, to say the least.
Yeah, I'm with you, Blake. This is one of those where, like, if they don't add any other center this offseason, I would have some questions. Or at least if they don't make a move at the center position, I should say, I would have some questions. But if everything does really just remain the same and they focused on the rest of the roster, like Duran starting over Isaiah Stewart is not something that the president of basketball operations controls. That's on the head coach. So, like, if this were to happen, I would be questioning Monty Williams or whoever else is running the sidelines for Detroit more so than I would be questioning Langdon at that point. And, on this note, why don't we hit on another one from Bobby Buckets, actually? Yeah, he says, with the current concerns around Jalen Duren's rim protection ability, what are your thoughts on starting Isaiah Stewart at the five and letting Jalen Duren come off the bench? And I will just say this quickly, which will give up my answer, is that I honestly think they would have won more games last year if this happened. Jack, you first.
and I will also say this is a thought that's been bouncing around in my mind as well. I don't think that is the ideal scenario for next season, but I think where I land with this is I do think as poor as Jalen Duren's rim protection and effort was at times, there is still tremendous value in his ability to haul in a defensive rebound. Like Stu, off the top of my head, there's been a couple of games in the past couple of seasons where the Pistons have lost at the buzzer on tip-ins, and I believe Isaiah Stewart was involved in a couple of those. And that's obviously one play, but I do have some concerns with Stu playing a ton of minutes as your starting big just because of his size. Whilst I do believe in the shooting now, especially at the five, I believe in the shooting, not so much at the four. But this does make sense. I think where I land, if this is your two centers, Duren, you can still start him, but his leash is so much shorter. And if that effort's not there, or he has two, like that's my whole thing with most of these young guys. If they're going to start, like I don't want all four starting, but say Asar Thompson starts next season or whatever, like their leash needs to be so much shorter, and the Pistons need to have players who can, take minutes away from them. So they have to really earn them, because it felt like at times last season, Duren he's going to be playing 30 minutes a game. Like the effort just wasn't there. I think being more accountable with the minutes and pulling them when they make two mistakes in a row, or even one mistake, I think that's where I land. If this was your two bigs that you were running with.
Yeah, Jack, I'm with you in terms of like, I mean, my concern with Stu starting at the five with Duren coming off the bench is rebounding. Like like ending possession is important, and we know that Jalen Duren has defensive concerns. We want him to grow as a rim protector. He doesn't space the floor, but that dude can rebound the ball, and that's important. And like you mentioned, Jack, there were instances where Stewart, just because of his size and everything, like he's not as good of a rebounder as Jalen Duren, and that's no like slight on Stu. It's just like a size thing. I will say I think the only reason that Stu starting at the 5 and Duren coming off the bench should happen is as almost a proof of concept that like Cade Cunningham and Asar Thompson or whoever it is like need a 5 who can space the floor to play next to him. And like I don't think there's really that guy that you're going to get this offseason. Even in the draft, there are some guys that you can look at, but they're not ready to go. And there's not one in free agency. And those guys just don't go on trees. So like you can see what that lineup looks like contextually. And but like Stu shouldn't be the long-term solution. It would have to be bringing someone else in that can play the 5, is a good rim protector, can space the floor, which isn't easy to say. And then maybe like Stu can play next to him because he can still shoot the ball or come off the bench as well. So yeah, Wes, where are you at?
Well, I agree that it really wouldn't be a long-term solution. I think we're all on the same page. Like long-term, Isaiah Stewart as your third big is a really, really good situation to be in. But I kind of want to ask both of you guys this. Wouldn't Asar Thompson just be a really good fit next to Isaiah Stewart at that 4 position? Like even if you're bringing them both off the bench, right? If you look at the weaknesses on Isaiah Stewart, you bring up rebounding. Well, Asar Thompson will cover that. You bring up, the pressure that you could put on the rim, either as a roll man, as a cutter, or just off the drive. Well, Asar Thompson's going to bring that. I get that it's a little non-traditional. Asar's only, 6'6", but the guy can jump out of the gym. He's strong. Isaiah Stewart can bang with, the Embiids of the world and the Giannis's. We've seen that. He's done that for 4 years, for 4 years now. Like, I think if you come into next season and you say that those two are your starting 4-5, I would be pretty happy. As long as Asar Thompson's going to be involved as a roll man more frequently than he was last year, kind of be more of that kind of Draymond Green-esque role for the Pistons. But Jack, what are your thoughts on Asar Thompson next to Isaiah Stewart?
I love that you brought this up, Wes, because this is why I'm having. This is why I've been kind of thinking about Stu so much, is because of all the players, he does fit with Cade as like a pick and pop big, but you want a lob man with Cade ideally, but he's fit with Asar. He kind of unlocks Asar in a way and helps you field lineups that make sense with featuring Cade and Asar. He's probably if you're just looking at Cade and Asar as the 2 guys, right? You think about the other young core, Stu probably fits the best with those 2. But offensively and defensively on both ends. So it's tricky. And like you said, they don't have to start. Even when I've just been throwing out some mock lineups and just making up stuff, if say the Pistons added Brandon Ingram or they add a bigger wing or something and Asar does go to the bench, which I don't think is a bad thing, by the way. If a Stu's coming off your bench, that still makes a ton of sense. And he provides a lot of lineup flexibility, which I think is underrated with Stu, just with the way he's developed as a player and adding that 3-point shot. He does make a lot of sense alongside Asar, and both with their rebounding together and their defensive, they're both very good defenders. And Asar projects to be very elite on the wing, I think, at least. There's plenty to like there with those 2.
Yeah, I think the thought behind it is really Asar is a good rebounder, so he helps make up for what you're missing with that by having Stu on the floor, and also Cade's a pretty good rebounder positionally. So I think having those advantages, I guess, just makes up for the size and lack of rebounding with Stu on the floor. But I agree. I think he's a good a good fit next to really like any of these guys, and he helps like clear up like Asar's shooting concerns and things like that. I just don't know if it's the best option in terms of like your first five moving forward, but I don't know. I just like Stu as a guy off the bench that you can kind of like plug and play in any lineups and stagger. And I just think the team, like what the roster is like, isn't really at that point right now. But hopefully, it's a direction we see them move toward for the long term.
Yeah, I agree. And just to say one quick thing on the defensive rebounding aspect of it, because I agree, it's really important to actually, end the possession. But you also have to create a situation where you have the opportunity to end the possession. And certain players were very not helpful to that last season for Detroit. Blake, I want to ask this one here from YouTube user. It was a very good question, and I kind of cheat with it. So this is: do you guys actually have time to watch full game film on all of these players for the draft when you're doing your evals? He says he finds that full game film is really the only way to get a real good feel. So Blake, you first. Do you actually watch the full games?
I try, and I do a lot more when like the games are actually going on. I would say at this time of year when you're getting like close to the actual draft, a resource that I've found really helpful is Hardwood Hoops Central on YouTube. They do like film sessions for really all of your prospects. The issue is like so their videos are like all of these players, like shot attempts, they have like rebounding stuff, playmaking, all that, and they're not highlight videos. It's just all attempts. Like I think what YouTube user is like alluding to is like, it's a hard time like evaluating these guys when you're just plugging their names into YouTube and seeing like, oh, Ron Holland drops 45 points in the G League and stuff like that. So, yeah, I'd say like rewatching full games, and if you're scouting a specific guy, fast forwarding at points when they're on the floor is the best way to do it. But also there are like places on YouTube that do a good job of including like the full context outside to just the highlights, which I think is the biggest issue getting a read on any of these guys.
I would say for me, it's a combination of reading like writers and scouts you trust. So like Sam Vecini, The Athletic, Jonathan Gavoni of ESPN, some of those guys, the No Ceilings guys do a great job as well. If you're not familiar with them, then obviously listening to podcasts. So once again, Game Theory Pod with Bryce and Sam's like an absolute must if you're into the draft, which I'm sure everyone here listens to. And then, yeah, YouTube's a great resource. Like, once again, Game Theory Pod. Also, like, Hoop Intellect is a great resource for that kind of thing, for like 15-minute videos that give you a quick scout. And then, I don't know, sometimes I go on Synergy and I can just watch some plays there. But a mixture of everything, to be honest.
I was going to just say YouTube user just added on like for a player like Cody Williams, for example, his highlights are great, but like during the actual game, he can feel invisible on the floor at times, which is totally fair. And like that's something that, yeah, just it's best to go and watch some like Colorado games. But if you can't do that, I guess there are other things just that don't only include like his great highlights, like you mentioned.
I feel like I'm gonna like give out like a state secret here, and I really shouldn't say it, but I will. I'll give it out. On YouTube, I'm not going to name the accounts just because I don't know if I should. I have no idea about this. But you can find what are called all possessions clip ups. It's usually pulled straight from Synergy or some other source of basketball scouting. But what they do is they just literally compile every time that the individual player was involved in a possession during a game. Usually for most starters, that's about a 10 to 15-minute video. And I'll just say for Cody Williams, it becomes very clear how invisible he can get at times, and also how high his ceiling can go. You get the full context. Obviously, watching full games is the pinnacle. That's what you should be doing. And when I have the time, I do. I try to best I can. But I mean, we're all busy. None of us are, trying to be scouts full time. So, this little shortcut that I found online has been very, very helpful for me. You can watch a lot of guys, a lot of games very quickly in just a couple of days.
Synergy's
any
coming
final
for
thoughts
you.
on that?
Synergy's
I
coming
know.
for you.
I'm not saying the account names. I will not say the account names. But go on YouTube. You can find them. They're a lot of fun. So we've got. Oh, where'd it go? I want to clear this. There we go. All right, we have a voicemail question. This is from our guy Base Pistons on Twitter, asking about previous draft takes from all of us. So here he is.
Hey guys, this is Pace Pistons from Twitter. Love the podcast. Thought I would leave a question here. So I was curious, not counting Pistons got players like Killian, what are some other draft prospects over the years, since you've been following the draft closely, that you thought were going to be very good, or you thought they weren't going to be good at all, that actually turned out to be the opposite and you were surprised? I think one that many fans, maybe many years ago, with Trey Burke was going to be good. That could be one example. I know I thought Royce White was going to be amazing, and I also thought that Romeo Langford had some potential. So I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are. Anyway, can't wait to watch the show. Go Pistons.
All right, so thank you for that. Blake, I'll throw this to you first. Who are some draft misses going back through time, both positive and negative, guys that you thought were going to be good, but they weren't, and also the reverse, guys you thought were going to be bad, and they were shockingly great.
Yeah, and shout out to Base Pistons for the question. This is a fun one. I was trying to think about this in a little bit of a Pistons lens, but there are some busts that you thought that were gonna be good. There's I always think back to Hashim to beat, and I was pretty young when he was playing, but I was like, this guy is dominant. How is he not gonna be a good NBA player? And with big guys, it's hit or miss. Injuries are a concern, but I'll say a Pistons specific one from way back now was Austin Day. I feel like he had so much upside in college as a 6'11".
You mean the next Tayshaun Prince, right?
Right, a 6'11" dude who shot over 40% from three in college on low volume. So I don't know if that means anything for Cody Williams. I'm not going to compare them, even though I kind of just did. But he's one that sticks out to me for the Pistons. I was in on the Sekou hype for a little bit, and that didn't pan out. But reverse, I think I don't want to take all the easy ones, so I'm just going to say Spencer Dinwiddie. When the Pistons drafted him, I didn't really think much of him because he was battling injuries. It didn't show much, and he's carved out a good career for himself. And there are some other examples for the Pistons that they probably gave up on too soon, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I would say my Pistons one I had so much hope for, which I think is so many of us. He was a Killian Hayes before Killian Hayes. I think it was Stanley Johnson. I was so hopeful with him. I thought he was good. He was meant to be he wasn't meant to be but I was thinking we had some Ron Artest reincarnation in Detroit, and it just felt like the grit. He was strong, defensive minded. We saw him go at LeBron in 2016. Felt like the pieces were there for him to be a long-time Piston in some form, but that obviously didn't work out. And it's interesting, at the time, if you go back and look at Stanley's shooting numbers, I don't think he shot over 40% from the field with the Pistons. They were rough. So That was the one for me. Like Sekou was like a big one, but like that was a draft where I got so sold on like the pre-draft 1 versus 0 workouts. Like he's an international prospect. The Pistons, I believe, even said like he shot 10 of 13 at his pro day, or he hit 10 threes in a row at his pro day. Like that one, I really thought he was going to be something. But I think a guy who surprised me, and this is a name everyone knows, not a Piston, is Austin Reeves. It always used to annoy me. I thought he was just going to be like that Laker that's overhyped, and then he's actually not that great. But I think he's seriously turned himself into a really good. Like I don't know if he's a starter on a championship team, but he's been a starter on like a playoff team for the Lakers alongside LeBron and has thrived. So he's a guy that surprised me for sure.
All right, I put together a long list here, and I knew that because I was going to answer this last, I needed to have absolutely no Pistons on this, and so I'm glad that this played out how it was. So we'll just run through it because I was having fun going back through the draft classes and picking out guys. But a big one for me, Carson Edwards.
Wait, Wes. Carson Edwards is a Pistons legend.
I know. I thought like when they brought him in, I was like, yes, he's like, this is awesome. He's gonna be better than he showed. He's gonna be a bench piece. This will be great. I was very wrong about that. I will be the first to tell you that. But like, man, he was so good at Purdue. He shot the crap out of the ball. I really thought that, like pairing him with Blake Griffin, like that big playmaker, and then having him just be a gunner out of the guard position, I thought that would be a great fit. I was very wrong about that. Not only was he not a first-round pick, which is where I had a mid-first grade on the guy. Not only was he a second-round pick, isn't he just out of the league now? I think he's in the G League. So
hey, he's overseas.
Big miss. Overseas.
Yeah.
So yeah, big miss there. Another fun one for you guys. I don't know if this might have been the Stanley year. Mario Hezonja. I was a big Hezonja guy. I thought he was going to be very good. Super Mario, he could jump out of the gym, he could shoot, and then turns out he really couldn't do either. That was a bummer. Another fun one, Andrew Wiggins and Jabari Parker. I had them flipped. I was completely out on Andrew Wiggins. I did not understand the hype at all. He's obviously carved out a very good NBA career for himself. I was big time Jabari Parker fan, and he's out of the league. Oops.
I love Jabari. I remember watching him at Duke and that kind of thing. Yeah. I think I was high on him.
Man.
Well, that and the fact that he's on record saying they don't play you to play defense.
But I think you can say the injuries robbed him of a full length kind of NBA career, if that makes sense. But I love that one.
No, I agree. Like he was a good scorer. He just I thought the dude was going to be a superstar, and no, he would not play any defense at all. Last one, just for fun, RJ Barrett. I did not understand the RJ Barrett hype at all. In my defense, I just didn't buy into the intangible stuff, and the fact that Duke played him basically as a de facto point guard for so long, really didn't shine a good light on that. He does not play that role now, and it was not a good fit for him then. And so when people were talking about him, oh, he's a big point guard. No, I'm out. But he's obviously been really, really good. He's actually a guy I wish the Pistons had tried to pry away from New York at the past deadline. I'm a big RJ Barrett fan now.
Yeah, just to throw in another Knicks name in the inverse, I think Josh Hart was a guy I didn't really buy a ton when he was coming into the NBA, and I was wrong about him. Another one I'm thinking about is Jordan Poole. I mean, he went into a great situation, and I mean, we see what's going on right now, but I didn't think he'd have anything close to the career that he's had as well. So yeah, it's fun to look back on those guys that you were wrong about and that have proved you wrong. The busts are sad, but it's more fun to look at the other way around sometimes.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're not getting paid to do this, so it's just fun to go back and laugh. Like, oh gosh, I was terribly wrong there. There are going to be more from this year too.
Yeah.
Gosh, but if it's Salon, I will be so upset.
Booker is a really good one that's brought up in the chat here.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm with this one here. I didn't think Booker would be what he was either, but all those Kentucky guards, like you can go down the list, Tyrese Maxey, like all those guys.
Like even quickly, that was another
Yep.
guy. I remember like in that
That's a good one.
2020 draft, like, yeah, thinking, oh, he's just going to be like a bench guard, which he kind of is now, but he's like, yeah, he surprised me a ton with New York. And now obviously with the Raptors. Love that shout out as well. Franz.
Yeah, that's a good one. Franz, that was a good one. All right, let's close it out on this one. Jack, I want to ask you this little, I know you, so I know this is a softball. This is from Rames. Why does Cade Cunningham deserve the rookie max extension? Just go on your soapbox here about Cade Cunningham.
Because if you don't give him the max, you're just looking for the next Cade to give a max to. Like, you just, I understand some of the criticism around Cade. There's still plenty he has to answer, but like he just came off a season where he averaged 23, 4 rebounds, 8 assists, had some 10-game stretches where he was averaging like 30, put up a couple of 40 pieces. And these are just counting stats, and I know they don't lead to wins, but I think it's fair to say, looking back in hindsight now, that roster was a disaster. The coaching wasn't great. The leadership above him is questionable. Like, it's not the ideal situation for a 19-20-year-old to come into and particularly thrive. He hasn't really, apart from, like, I would say that his rookie season was the best team he's had around him with Trey Lyles, Jeremy Grant, Corey Joseph, like Sadiq Bey, Isaiah Stewart. Like, just think about where those guys are at now. And that's the best roster we've seen around Cade. So he's had players drafted around him who don't particularly fit around him. And Cade was a guy at the time it was a no-brainer to take him at number 1. And then the team hasn't been built around him and to help bring out his strengths. So you give him the max no matter what. And he's a leader. Like, he has I kind of hate this word, but I think it's true. Like, he kind of has an aura around him, a mystique. Like, he's like, you need like, prior to having Cade, like, and this is why, and this is sad, but this is why the day the Pistons won the lottery was the highlight of my Pistons fandom. It's because, like, prior to Cade, we had Blake Griffin for like a season and a half. Before that, since I've been a fan since 2012, like Reggie Jackson, like the Pistons have never had a true like superstar you can get around, or like that archetype of star player you can get around. Like, we've been starved of that. And I just think he's that guy. Like, I think he's a guy that's going to get the Pistons to the playoffs multiple times. How far they go will depend on how good the team around him is or who they can bring in to Detroit. But yeah, who else are you paying the max to?
Exactly. Like, on top of everything you said, like, I think Cade just gives, like, guys like him don't come around that much. Like you said, winning the lottery, as we've seen in the past, like, winning the lottery with Cade, that is not the norm. The odds aren't built for you to do this. And the Pistons are lucky enough that they won it in a year where there was a guy that you can build around in the draft. Like, you can argue maybe someone in the 2024 class eventually develops into that, but I don't think there's a surefire guy in this class. And luckily the Hawks already have like Trae Young and Jalen Johnson and different guys. But if it's a different team that's looking for their guy, they're having a hard time. And I think the Pistons already have that in Cade. So he gives you a bit of consistency in a time that is totally just seems directionless, and we're looking for some sort of inch of progress. So I don't know. I think the extension is a no-brainer. And I do want to give Rames a bit of the benefit of the doubt here, because in the DBB comments, he did include Exhibit A, 28 minutes of Cade getting his own bucket. And it's like a YouTube video of Cade just like going to work in isolation situations. I just obviously couldn't put the YouTube link in here. So I recommend that everyone go to this specific comment so you can watch that video as well and see why Cade deserves a max.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to address one thing that is brought up pretty frequently with this, the injury concern stuff. Like, he missed one season, basically, minus those 12 games or whatever they were. But he missed one season on kind of a freak, like, long-term shin issue that he's apparently had since high school. There's no reason to expect that that's the norm for him. And every other season of basketball in his career, he's missed minimal time. Like the rookie year, he missed time for what? Ankle sprains, right? This past season, just some little nicks and cuts here and there. And we're all relatively sure that on the back half of the season, he probably would have played more games if, the games mattered at all to the Pistons. So I'm not worried at all about the injury concerns. I don't think anyone else really should be either. There's just no reason to it.
Even if you're slightly concerned, though, like, what, do you just let Cade walk? Or not
Right.
walk, but do you know what I mean? Like, not offer him an extension? Like, I actually don't think I've seen a heap of buzz around people saying he doesn't deserve it. So, like, that my
Okay.
little spiel then wasn't having a go at Rames. It was more just my thoughts on why you should give him the max.
I know.
Yeah.
I just didn't want Rames to think I took his question out of context because
No.
I don't want to put words in his or her mouth, but I would guess that they think Cade deserves a max as well.
It's
Well, and any
interesting.
chance to, oh, sorry, any chance to get Jack you on your soapbox. I mean, we have to take it, Love it, love it. Before we let you go, because you've been gracious enough to stay a little longer for this episode, if you have the time, want to ask if you had any questions that you, our guest, had thought wanted to throw and have all three of us answer before we close out.
So I was just very curious. So we've spoken about Malik Monk on this podcast, on this show. If the Pistons sign Malik Monk, who do you want them to take with pick 5?
That's a good question. So I don't think Malik.
Real quick, sorry, Blake.
Yeah,
Doesn't this happen in reverse order though? Is the draft is before free agency, isn't it? Am I forgetting something?
yeah. The draft is 26, but I mean,
Yeah. Okay.
so I think if you bring in Malik Monk in free agency, if Reed Shepherd is the pick, is there room, or do you have to move on from Jaden Ivey or trade the pick? I don't know. I feel like I'm sort of in a stance of whoever this draft pick is, yes, with this class, you're in more of a position to draft for fit, but I see Monk as a guy that is one of those vets that you can bring in, and maybe if you do end up with a Reed Shepherd, it gives him a little more leeway to figure things out. I mean, I think he'll be pretty good at some level close to immediately, but I don't know. I I'm changing who my guy is for the Pistons every day. I texted Wes yesterday. I was thinking I'm leaning more towards Klingon just because I know he addresses some sort of need for the Pistons, whereas other guys I have questions about. Reed, I know he addresses a need, but he's also a small guard. So what does he look like on the next level? So I don't know. That's a long way to say I think they should draft the best basketball player available, which is kind of hard this year, especially because a lot of these guys in that range have questions.
Yeah. So for me, I've completely flipped because early on, after, once we hit in the new year, I was entirely on this is a bad draft, not a lot of super high upside guys, just draft for fit and move on from there. I've completely changed that tune. I mean, there are guys that are worth taking a chance on. And I think that as I've gotten and kind of come to grips more with the talent that's available, in this draft class, pairing that with how much the current young players on the Detroit Pistons roster really struggled down the stretch of last season, I've just come to the position where not only do you just draft whoever Trajan Langdon thinks is going to be the best player, if that's Reed Shepard, if that's Connect, or if it's Salaun, Ron Holland, Cody Williams, I don't care. Whoever he thinks is the best guy, that's who should be the selection. And then just move through the rest of the offseason like the draft didn't happen. If the guy that you pick at 5 ends up forcing his way into the roster, or you can't sign or trade for someone to put ahead of him, great, you know what, that's fine. But ideally, I think you just draft whoever you think is the best prospect. You go into free agency and you pretend that he's not even there. You want to fill out the roster with NBA players. You want to make it coherent. You want to make it all fit around with Cade. Maybe do a consolidation trade, look to bring in somebody who's really proven as a starter in this league via trade. And again, if the guy that you drafted is too good to really sit on the bench and just kind of have a developmental year, then you've created a really good problem. Yeah. And that's just kind of where I've fallen with it.
I think I'm still all over the place, but I think I'm leaning towards that West because I think in the past, the Pistons, they've drafted players, and where everything came undone is there was too much of a reliance on their young players to produce in their first, second, even third year is asking a lot for them to start and really produce at both ends. I just want to ask that question because sometimes I battle with that, but it's going to be interesting. I think I land with where you are, Wes, to be honest.
Yeah.
No, that's a great question.
Yeah. But before I close this out, Jack, I know you posted your top 5 Pistons big board, but would you say you have a guy for the Pistons in this draft, or can you talk yourself into a lot of different things depending on who they end up with on draft night, or if they end up with someone?
I definitely don't have a guy.
Okay.
And that board I put together, just those 5 prospects, as I was saying when we were talking about Cody Williams and Ron Holland, it goes against how I've looked at drafts in the past. I love that from YouTube user. Reed Shepard is literally the last player I would look for the Pistons to draft in previous years, but I'm trying to have a more open mind. And just try and find players maybe you can plug in, or who, if they are asked to step up in their rookie season, can come in and just do something from day one really well on offense potentially, or defense. So I wouldn't say I have a guy.
That's funny. Reed Shepard for me is if he's there, have to take him.
Yeah.
That's the dude for me.
Yeah.
He's just such a clean fit with Cade.
Yeah.
Yeah. My mind is just changing every day. I'm really interested to see where it ends up. There are a lot of guys too that I'm I would be okay if the Pistons took them at 5, but I would love it if they traded back to 8 or 9 and ended up with the same guy. Yeah. So we'll see. It doesn't always work out that way, but okay, Wes, do you have anything else before I throw it over to Jack to plug anything and close us out?
No, I don't, Jack. Thank you so much, man. We always love having you join. It's so fun just talking hoops with both of you guys. So appreciate your time. Why don't you tell everyone where they can find you? And if you got anything to plug, go ahead and do so.
As always, thanks so much for having me on, guys. Loved it. You can follow me on Twitter at Jack_Kelly_3on3. And you can follow me on YouTube at Pistons_intellect. But apart from that, support Detroit Bad Boys. These guys rock. And this whole season's going to be fun.
It's going to be very fun. Yeah. Thank you again for joining, Jack. It's always a blast. This almost 90 minutes flew by. Everyone, if you could just comment, subscribe, it would be great. Coffee, I saw your comment in there. Thank you for plugging it. Also, I saw your comment in the DBB section. Sorry I didn't get it into the show, but we'll add it next week. Wes's best man speech went great. My little one's doing great at home, so really appreciate you always supporting and asking. And shout out to Base Pistons for using our phone line. Reminder, everyone can call and ask a question, hear your voice on the show. The number for that is 313-355-2717. And special thanks to Sean Court, managing editor over at Detroit Bad Boys, for supporting the show. Shout out to you guys again for all the great questions and talking points. We'll catch you next week, whether on your commute or live with us here on YouTube. We can't wait to talk more Detroit basketball with you all.